Everyone dreams of landing that big guest. And this week's guest does that all of the time. She's going to talk a little bit about that, and she does a great job of diving into like the nitty gritty of how overnight success isn't really overnight. Stay tuned. This week, Reilly Stith. Reilly, thank you for being here. So the biggest thing about this, you've got the podcast.
Yeah.
You're a well-known DJ.
Yep.
Your podcast, in so many ways, is talking about how everyone is an overnight success, and that overnight success happens over the period of anywhere from 2 to 10 years.
It's interesting because Bosses Start Somewhere is really about no shortcuts, built from your belief, which is really the tagline of the show. So what I love is it seems like it's overnight success, but what I really am highlighting, preferably are artists, actors, entrepreneurs, business owners, any entrepreneur or self-made boss in any facet, what their journey is and how they started is what I love to emphasize, because a lot of times we hear about the wins. Sometimes we do get the losses. We do get the success story. But then a lot of times we're kind of like, how did you start? For instance, I had Angel Reese's makeup artist on the show, and she started off in makeup because she wanted to fill in her brows at MAC, which then led her to weddings, which then led her to I think it was Love and Hip Hop. I can't remember, but she did a contract, and it just, her career just spiraled. Same with Dave East. He started with basketball. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting to hear someone start, which is why it's Bosses Start Somewhere.
I love that. And to me, it's the fact that you cover that nitty gritty of it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
We all like to think it's sunshine and rainbows. I don't know about your business journey, but mine has not been all sunshine and rainbows. Although if you ask anyone around me, I will tell them that. So because of the fact you like to cover how things got started for people, how did the podcast get started for you?
Funny. So I started Bosses Start Somewhere in 2017, excuse me. In my bedroom in Los Angeles. I was living there as an actress, and I had some downtime. I had just really gotten into taking DJing seriously. I was DJing in New York, and I was acting, of course, but there's a lot of downtime in between auditions and shooting. And I decided that I really needed inspiration. I was honestly a little depressed from the audition process and getting called back and not getting the job or booking the job. And it was only a 2-day job. It was just a lot. So I decided to interview my cool friends, was how it started, and figure out how they started so I could stay inspired on my own journey. That ended up transitioning into me cold calling different celebrities through social media and emails and finding their assistants and cold calling them through email, or if they had a phone number. Any way I could get a guest, I did. I even sent out several emails to, I believe, Shonda Rhimes back in 2018. I got very far. I sent also some other emails to some big directors and producers, and we just couldn't really streamline an interview. Recently, I'm waiting for a very well-renowned TV host. Her PR company got back to me and said, yeah, we would love to have her on the show. Let's see how her schedule aligns. So I'm still utilizing, honestly, that same method to this day, but I did take a 6-year break. So I wouldn't say lose momentum, but I'm trying to regain that momentum with the show. But listen, after 6 years off, I hopped back with Annie from Love is Blind right before the reunion on Netflix. So we're scoring big right now. But that's how it started. It started through needing inspiration for myself by really sharing the stories of others that I knew.
So, I mean, as you've gotten some of these larger name guests, have you found that most of them, I mean, are receptive to, I mean, you've got a good following, and we'll talk about like you started audio only and went to YouTube.
Yeah.
But you're not, I mean, let's face it, you're not 10 million followers.
No.
But you're still finding these pretty high level celebrities to come on. Do you find they're typically receptive? It's just a case of reaching out with the right message?
Yes, I think it's a combination of timing, messaging, as well as when you're in the flow of life and you're living your authentic purpose, the universe does respond. So what I find is, yes, it is the messaging and it is the timing, but I'm also in purpose doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, to your point, I don't have 10 million followers. I am trying to now figure out ways to monetize the podcast. I'm a single mom and I need to have a job, which I run a marketing agency, but that's very volatile, right? So I say that all to say, like, this is the very thing as a talk show host, as a TV host, this is the very thing that I ultimately want to do. But I would find that they are receptive for the ones that do want to interview with me. I think that they love the title of the show, Bosses Start Somewhere. I also think there's a nostalgic moment with some of the guests where they can talk about a journey that they never really get to talk about. Like, nobody goes back to the beginning. We always go maybe 5 years prior what you were doing, or your last win was an Emmy, so what are you doing now? No one goes back to, well, I wanted to create pens for a living and that didn't work out, so I started rapping. You know what I mean? So that's where Bosses Start Somewhere really has, I think, a very special niche. And it's very interesting to a lot of people because no one's really going back to the basics.
That's a great point with that. Speaking of kind of the back to the basics tie-in with that, you talked about the marketing agency side of things that you have. Have you tied the podcast in with that? And if so, what's been what do you see as the bridge, and how do they help each other?
I haven't yet. I'm going to be 100% honest. TDMS Group is a digital marketing agency. We do everything from SEO ranking to lead generation to social media content creation, all the things. It's a full-fledged digital marketing agency. We do all services under digital marketing. I have not fused the two because Bosses Start Somewhere has really been more of an inspirational podcast, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's like a business driven, like how to rank your SEO. And I want to make sure that I keep the brands separate. I've thought about doing some podcasting for the digital marketing side of things and the tips, but it's a very saturated market. And honestly, I would say what inspires me the most is more so the topics under Bosses Start Somewhere. I'm really interested in people's stories and their journey, but I do utilize my team and my company to help me with the graphics and the website design and the copywriting for the blog. And, I utilize them a lot, but I have not really fused the two from a marketing perspective.
It's interesting you say that, and I can see how the one is the 9 to 5 and the other one is the passion project.
Yes.
There's some intertwinings there, and like you said, it's funny. There's a few podcasts that I'm the host of outside of this. That once again, as someone that owns a podcast production company, it becomes a little easier to do that when you've got the people in place to help you out with that.
Exactly.
So I get that, and I like that. Speaking to the marketing side of things, attention really is currency anymore. I mean, that is the currency that everyone is trying to get a hold of and use. Has the show how do you feel the show grabs attention from people or for people or whatever, other than the celebrity? I mean, what is your energy is really good. How do you feel like you're able to engage and act with your audience to get their attention? Is your podcast not getting the results you hoped for? Are you feeling stuck and unsure how to grow your audience or make a real impact? We get it. Podcasting can be a challenge, but with the right strategies, it can be an incredibly powerful tool. That's why we're offering our free no-pitch podcast consultation. We'll spend 30 minutes with you identifying areas for improvement on anything from optimizing your audio or video quality to developing a content strategy that resonates with your customers. If you're ready to unleash your podcast's full potential, visit the link in our show notes to schedule your free consultation. Space is limited, so sign up today so we can help you create a podcast that truly shines.
So the solo episodes that I will be dropping this year, which I'm very excited about, will kind of give me more of a range in understanding the demographic. I was doing a lot of inspo on TikTok for a while through TikTok Live. So that kind of worked. And I also send morning messages out to the fans through social media. In terms of the audience responses of celebrity, right now, I basically grab the fan base of the celebrity, but where they fall in love with me or through my questions. I asked some very interesting questions, for instance, with Jameer Young from the Miami Heat, he's on a 2-way contract. I asked him, what does a day in the life of look like for you, right? Because that's very different than Dwayne Wade or LeBron James, right? But what we find is essentially in many ways, it's all the same. You still have to train. You still have to be focused. You still have to be disciplined. So even though you might be an aspiring basketball player that wants to be a LeBron James, you might be in a Jameer Young situation where you're on a 2-way contract and you can still feel fulfilled, even playing in the G League and things like that. So my show really brings insight to a lot of background in different industries. And I think through my questioning, I don't necessarily just ask surface-based questions like, tell me about that breakup or are you dating right now? The questions are, what sparked your interest in makeup and why? That's what makes my guests think, well, I needed to fill in my eyebrows. You'd be surprised how many women would be like, that's amazing. I need some lipstick. You know what I mean? Let me go maybe try to do my friends. And then she also said she was doing a lot of proms and people's faces and things like that. So that kind of like spiraled. But I say that all to say with those examples is through my questioning, it really separates my show apart. And when it comes to the fan base, I think I will have more of an understanding of who's in love with me specifically through the solo episodes. But I do find that I do gain followers from the guests. They become fans of me and the guests. So it's very interesting.
You've mentioned the questioning there a couple of times, and I want to touch on that because it's something that I really enjoy about podcasting.
Yeah.
How are you formulating your questions? How are you, what type of, do you have a process? Is it just, this is interesting? Where do you get these questions from?
It's interesting. It really depends. For instance, when I had Tish on the show, she and I met at the gym. But I never knew her story. And we were gym partners. We had the same fitness trainer. So it's really interesting because I didn't even know how to pronounce her name. I had to actually ask her, is it Letitia? Is it Letitia? What is it? And she ended up saying to me, Reilly, I'm so glad you asked. You'd be surprised. That's why I shortened my name to Tish. It became a whole thing. So how I formulate my questions is truly based off of my interest. It's the same way with DJing for me. People ask, how do you know the right music to play all the time? And it's a spiritual experience. I tap into the frequency of the room. I can feel the room and the energy, and it starts to just work. And with my questioning, I might have a list of questions, but I'll tell you the truth, Josh, a lot of times I have to derail because I'm listening to my guest and I have a question within the question I just asked that I might not have put on my cue card, right?
Nice.
So it's really interesting because you have a plan, but a lot of times I have to pivot on the show. And that's the beauty of talk shows and podcasting and radio. You can also have a script, but you don't have to stick to the script, which makes it authentic.
It's one of the things that I love about podcasting too, is because it's that authentic conversation that really allows you to dive deep. In that, one of the things that you've said is that perfection does not build connection.
Yes.
It's one of the things that I love. We talk about it all the time too. And it's one of the things that I see as promising for podcasting moving forward. People are going to have a tougher time connecting with a robot. They're going to feel better about connecting with a human. At least that's the hope. That being said, is there an episode where you're like, oh, crap, that went sideways, but yet it still turned out good and you felt that connection by the end of it?
I love this question. Great question. I wouldn't say this went sideways because I'll tell you, there's no mistakes in podcasting. It's like it's similar to radio. It's very interesting, totally different than my career as an actress. I mean, if you look the wrong way in film or TV, it can throw off the whole scene. You know, what I love about podcasting is there isn't a mistake. So you can't really go left unless you acknowledge that you went left. So what I do is if I, for instance, messed up the title when we first started talking and I said, sorry about that, bosses start somewhere, right? I don't have to acknowledge that, but I can correct that and like within the interview, and it makes your viewer less anxious to watch, right? If you start to protect and hide and pretend you didn't make a mistake and you don't necessarily acknowledge the mistake in a crafty way, it can seem as if you don't have your show under control or your interview under control. But what I find is even through mistakes, I will acknowledge them, but also not acknowledge them. So I'm very crafty. So if I don't have a guest who loves to talk, I've had a couple guests who have told me, Reilly, I hate interviews and I'm so nervous when I do them, but you made me so comfortable. And what I find is I keep the energy going for my guest so they don't have to pull from something they might not have already within. So it keeps the interview going. So if I find that you're very choppy with answering questions, I'm going to guide that conversation. I can tell by the way you're moving your head or the way you're breathing, like how to go into the next question. There is a spiritual science behind it, which I believe is a God-given gift, honestly. And that's why it comes very natural to me. I haven't had to train or study in any type of way. I just fell into purpose.
I love it. And it's funny because I don't think anyone is going to accuse either one of us of being difficult to talk to or difficult to get words out of. Neither one of us is going to have that problem. That being said, you've referred to something else as to saying like, you just trust that the right people will find it. And that's something that we find a lot of podcasters have a difficult time with because they want to speak to everyone and not realizing that when you speak to everyone, you speak to absolutely no one. How, like when you said, like, I'm trusting that the right people are going to find it. How does that change how you go about the show or marketed the show or did the show?
So I would say I trust how I'm getting the guests on the show. From a marketing perspective, I would say that I am looking into PR right now. Actually, I'm analyzing contracts for the right PR company for the show and monetization purposes, which is a blessing. And I would say in the beginning, if you're podcasting, focus on your message, focus on specifically what it is you want to talk about and shed light on. Once you've kind of gotten your feet wet and you're in the flow of the show, that's when I would really look into marketing. I mean, when I first started, I had like 2 listeners. I mean, certain episodes on YouTube don't even have that many listeners, but my Apple podcast does exceptionally well, right? So I would say get your logo and make sure your branding is together and you kind of have a concept of what you should do marketing wise. But I wouldn't necessarily focus on that. I would focus on like your message and what the show is about. And that's how I got here. So for me, marketing is intentional, but finding guests right now is in the flow of the season that I'm in, but that soon will change.
Sure.
I just can't let anything stop me. That's the only reason why I'm in the flow.
So, like, as you move forward here, you said you started it, took a little bit of a break. Everyone's entitled to a break now and again, right? How do you see the show evolving? I know you said there's some upcoming solo episodes.
Yep.
Like, is that an evolution of it? Is that a branch of it? Like, what do you see coming up over the next I'm going to give you 2 timelines here to look at over the next 6 months and then over the next 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. I think Gary Vee and Mel Robbins really changed the game, as well as Jay Shetty. I would say I've always been a writer, so writing quotes and inspiration has been always something I do privately for myself. So when I was able to see people like Gary Vee and Jay Shetty come and Mel Robbins just inspire people through their platform, whether they're at home or in their studio, for me, it was like, okay, interviewing guests is kind of pigeonholing me. I have an entire brain filled with inspiration and advice and education that I can share with the world. So it is a branch, but it's a part of it, right? So I'll have some guests on the show and then I'll have tons of solo episodes, right? So that kind of bridges that gap that you were talking about earlier with taking my podcast to a level where I can kind of expand, but I'm not necessarily not focused on where I started. So even though I started with guests, I now am branching off and having my viewers fall in love with me on my own with just me, mic to camera, where when you have guests, sometimes you get the viewer to fall in love with you, but they might be there just for the guest. This way, when I just do solo episodes, I'll know they're there for me. So it is a branch that kind of has derived over time. And when I first started, podcasting was the wild, wild west. I mean, it still is in ways, but I remember going to the first podcast conference or festival in downtown LA with a friend of mine who was a music attorney who was speaking on a panel about music licensing and podcasts. And I had learned, I can just start this now. And when I think I'd already done one episode at the time, but what ended up happening for me was I didn't focus on video. I was like, you know what? I can get these celebrities easy if they just have to use their voice. They're always on camera.
Sure.
They always need hair and makeup. They might be exhausted from that and I'm a nobody. How can I get them? Oh, this is how I get them. I'm going to do audio only. So I was able to DM, yes, Jules' assistant. She responded right away. Never met her, never was on video with her. We just did a phone conversation through Skype, put out our interview. So that kind of started happening. And now podcasting is so big. Everyone has video. So now you have to do video and audio. But when I started, it was intentional to be able to get the guests. I wasn't even thinking about my messaging. So now that I have evolved, now I'm interested in sharing my message.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. The one question that I always like to ask people to kind of close things out is, as a podcast production company for us, we are always looking for what's that one mistake that every podcaster has made, including probably yourself, that they shouldn't make. So, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to a business owner, marketing manager who's ever thinking about starting a podcast? What's that thing that they should do, should not do, should be looking out for? What's that one thing?
The one thing for me would be don't take a break.
Makes sense.
Push through your momentum, push through your depression, push through when you don't believe in yourself. Keep doing episodes, utilize the mic and your show as a platform for release. Do not take a break. And I'm saying that from experience. I took 6 years off. I wish I hadn't. I started my podcast in 2017. People are starting podcasts 3 to 5 years and they're exploding. So if I just think about where I could be now, had I not taken that break, even though everything does happen for a reason, the momentum I would have would be exponentially insane. So I just would say, whatever trials and tribulations that you're going through or that you don't feel that you can overcome, push through with your show. If you start your show, create a marriage. That's what you're married to, and that you have to go through it through thick and thin. And that's what I would say is my best advice for anybody podcasting, because there are no mistakes. You can always pivot in podcasting, and that's what I love the most.
Stay married to your podcast. I absolutely love that. That is To me, that is a great way to finish this off. Reilly, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Where can
you.
people find you?
Yes, you can find me on all things at Bosses Start Somewhere. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and my name is Reilly Stith. You'll find my name there as well, where you can follow me privately as well. And you can check us out on bossesstartsomewhere.com. We have a media platform where we do boss news and give you all the boss latest info. So yeah, follow me. I'll follow you back.
I absolutely love it. Reilly, thank you so much. For everyone else, I've got some thinking to do. Then we're going to summarize this. I will be right back. I found the conversation with Reilly really interesting because there's the one main piece to it that I found was her, I don't want to say fearlessness, but in a way, kind of yes. She had no problem reaching out to like high-level guests. These are people that have PR teams working for them. And yet were more than willing to come on to her show as even at that point in time, a very, very small creator. To me, I think that's awesome. And it's something that more of us need to look at and practice in. If you have guests on your show, don't be afraid to try and, I don't want to say hook the big fish, but yes, reach out to someone that maybe, I don't want to say, once again, out of your league, because obviously no one's out of anyone's league, but reach out to someone that you may think might be a step or two ahead of you, might be a step or two above you, whatever it is. Reach out to those people, because if you can show that, hey, the conversation is going to have value, boy, you could be into something really, really big there. Now, what I'm also going to say about that is make sure it's someone that is relevant. With hers, she's got, her podcast is called Bosses Start Somewhere, which I think is great because she can pull from so many different areas. She's had NBA players on. She's had makeup artists on. You heard both of those. That's a wide array of people to pull from. What I want to caution you about that, though, is making sure that you are sticking with people in your niche audience. Whoever you're trying to address, make sure that you're talking around about those people and bringing those people on as guests. But once again, don't be afraid to go after those big fish, so to say. The other thing that I really liked is she talked to something that speaks, I mean, so dearly to the podcaster soul to me. Everyone sees the big podcasts. They see the Joe Rogans of the world. They see the dailies. They see the Smartless. They see those podcasts and they think, I'm going to get that big. And I'm going to do it overnight. I'm going to go viral. Boy, does that irritate me when people say that. It's not. She talks about overnight success is built over years, sometimes over decades. Overnight success isn't an overnight thing. It's built over time. That's very much, that sticks with podcasting. You don't just turn into this overnight success. If you consistently turn out high quality content, you will grow. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. That's a good thing, because along that way, you can figure out where you fit in, how you're supposed to fit in, and what value you are providing to the people that are listening to you. To me, it's the twofold stories here. Is the one is go out and find that big guest. Go out and find that expert that you've been just dying to talk to, that you've been dying to have on the show. On the flip side of that, realize that your overnight success, just like the rest of your business, is going to take time to build. With all that, if you are in the middle of building your podcast, reach out. We would love to hear from you. We've got our 15-minute no-pitch podcast consultation. We'll spend 15 minutes together. I'll help you with camera angles. I'll help you with lighting. I'll help you with any podcasting questions you have. Click the link in the show notes and we will hook up and talk about these items together. If you're willing to subscribe, like, share, all those other things, a review on the podcasting platform you're listening on would be a huge help, would help us reach more people, and I would greatly appreciate that. Most of all, do me a favor. Take care of yourself if you can. Take care of someone else too, and I will see you very, very soon. Creating engaging content can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I'm excited to share our Stomping Podcasting newsletter. You'll get actionable insights and expert tips straight to your inbox. These are to help you maximize your video marketing and podcasting return on investment. Head over to the show notes and click the link to subscribe to our free newsletter. Don't miss out on this opportunity to become a video marketing and podcasting pro.